Okay, hi class. This is especially for those of you who are not attending our Zoom session today. It is February 3rd. Okay, so what I have up here is Dart 103, our class. This shows the assignments, a Canvas profile. The Squirrel and Nut Boutique will be next. Okay, this is your homework to finish. I believe the due date on both of them is Monday. So do please check because these are kind of fast and quick little assignments I want you to do, and then I lock it. I don't want you spending half a semester not doing some of this stuff. I really need you to get on it and do it right away. Okay? So the Canvas profile, you can see right here, those I've graded, those who I have not graded yet. There's a reason I haven't graded you, like Lon or Maria, is because I can't open up your links. This is not your fault. There is some interface between school and my computer, a firewall or something that's not allowing me to open it. So please do a screen capture. Do a screen capture of your profile. Make sure you have a photograph there of yourself or a little illustration of a photograph. Make it personal. I prefer your face, but make it personal. And then write two or three sentences about uh, who you are as a student, who are you as a designer or an artist or whatever, and think about what you'd like to be doing in 2 or 3 years from now. Okay? So that's for Canvas profile, Squirrel and Nut Boutique. We will talk about, and I do want you all to look at the videos I have for that and do your best you can follow them and finish them and hand them in as a PDF, and I'll go over that too. All right. First of all, as I usually do, I like to do the lectures and get that out of the way. So here we go with that. I'm going to move this down, and open up Design Principles. Now, Design Elements is up on YouTube right now. So if you missed that on Monday, that was Monday's lecture, you can look at it up there again. Here we go. Let's see. Has anybody tried to get in? Let me check on this. Looks like we're okay. All right, this is our digital 2D design, and this is principles, which I think is more valuable than the other one, the essentials. Actually, that's too big. Command, well, here, escape. All right, that is, I'm looking at my area for recording, and this would fit. Okay, so let's look at this digital 2D design, and we're going to talk about principles. Last lecture was elements: line, shape, value, texture, color. That is the real nuts and bolts of design and a lot of even artwork. Because it's really, I mean, shape, line, color. This is very, very basic stuff. Now we're going to get into what I like, the principles, which gets into much more subtlety and detail. We talk about balance, contrast, depth, focus, movement. That's a real big one, movement, because movement isn't what you think it is. Okay? Repetition, scale, and isolation. These are all really great things to know. Again, as I teach, I try to teach things that are valuable. I edit out the stuff that I just don't think you will ever use or rarely use. And this is the stuff. If you go on somebody else's definition of elements and principles, there's much more. I'm just not interested in some of these because I don't think they're valuable, especially not at a beginning level. Okay? So let's go through the first one, balance. A 2D picture plane can be symmetrical or asymmetrical. Okay? Should be pretty easy. Here we are. Greek architecture was noted for its symmetry, the beauty of that symmetry. That's the Parthenon. And next to it is a poster. It's not a perfect symmetrical because not everything, if you cut it in half, everything on the left does not match with the right, but it's pretty darn close. Now, what do you get when you do, here you go, there you go. Now, what do you get when you do symmetrical? What's one of the strong points about symmetrical? It's very solid. It's very solid. Everything is grounded. You really see everything is kind of in its place. It's everything, nothing is moving or distracting. Your mind looks for patterns, your brain, and this one is really easy. So your brain actually reads it quickly. Okay? So that's a plus. The minus is it can be really boring. If you do this and it's absolutely symmetrical, no, it doesn't deviate at all, you can be asking for some trouble. Okay? Here's asymmetrical. What we have here is the Disney, I forget what it's called, the Disney building, the Disney auditorium downtown. All right? It's by Frank Gehry. It's asymmetrical. This building, I have yet to be inside of it. I've been outside quite a bit. Has anybody been inside of it for a concert or anything? It's up on Bunker Hill downtown. You have?
Yeah, I did.
What's it like, Maria, inside when you walk in? Is it metal or?
Wood. No, it's a lot of wood.
A lot of wood?
Yeah.
See, I would think it would be concrete or metal. That's interesting. It's wood. So, okay, so the outside's metal, so the inside's warm. So there's that contrast of cold and something very warm. So this is asymmetrical. It can be chaotic, but boy, isn't it exciting to look at? All the square boxes we have in LA. Here's a poster on Japan. The Japanese are noted for being asymmetrical. They don't draw a line and have everything follow it. They are very known for asymmetrical. Okay? Whoops, sorry. Contrast. Extremes existing on the same picture plane. Okay, soft versus rough. Bright versus dark. Heavy versus light. All right? Here we go. Look at the top photo. You can achieve this. I see people do this in ads all the time to focus your attention. They'll take the color photograph and they'll mask out a section, leave it in color or intensify the color and make everything else grayscale, black and white, grayscale. Okay? This is an easy way and it's effective. I see it overdone a little bit, but I still think it's worth doing. The photo on the bottom, I believe, is by Caravaggio. I think, well, somebody's getting their head cut off, and it's kind of funny that there's two women doing it. So maybe he didn't do the dishes, maybe he didn't take out the trash. I don't know what the situation is, but he's getting his head cut off. Now look at the contrast, the background. How dark it is. Caravaggio does this all the time. It's a trick. It's a device. This is flat. If you go up and see this painting, and I believe I've seen this one. This one is in Rome. It's paint on canvas. It is flat. They are creating this illusion as we create illusions with our digital palette. Okay, digital means. Look at the skin of the women. Look at how you see their arms thrusting toward his head. Hers and the top of their necks, their faces. Notice how it's illuminated. This is not a mistake. This is done that way so that it creates this sense of movement. Okay? Here's this cat looking at a little goldfish. This is a very simplistic way of doing it, but it very much simplifies how you can, with contrast, black and white, how you can highlight something. Okay? Depth is what you think it is. It's overlapping forms. If you want something to look like it's going back in space, overlap it. Make something over it. It works that way in photography too. When you're framing something, and I hope there's some photographers in this class. I love photography. When you frame something, photography will take a three-dimensional field and flatten it. So it's 2D. You have to try to get that back to looking 3D. Unless you want it flat. Unless that's your intent. But a good way also is to overlap things. You will make something go back in space and come forward. Okay? So here we go. This is make something go back by using 1-point perspective. See these lines? They probably converge around here. The tops of the buildings, everything points here. This is very severe. 1 point is very severe perspective. Okay? Okay, here we go. How are these books standing out from the books in the back? Anybody?
Scale, color.
Color. Scale and color. You hit both of them. When we look in our world, in our reality, when you look at something as it goes back, it gets smaller. Also, have you noticed on a clear day in the LA area or Orange County, when you look at the mountains and you see maybe like now a little snow on them, notice they are blue purple. That's what happens in our atmosphere on Earth. It has a tendency to make things in the background go blue. So that's an immediate thing you can actually do something in the blue and it will trick your brain into thinking, okay, that goes back in space. And then, like Maria said, you got color and then you got size. You're playing with size. Also focus. Notice how in our world, anything that gets so far back loses focus. If we lived in a world that was absolutely the same focus 1 foot away as it was 1 mile away, we would have a very hard time negotiating our space. Okay? Here's some more perspective. The one on the left, much more subtle. It's a watercolor. Notice how you go to the blue. You don't really even think about that. You don't go, why is the background so blue? It's just, oh, that's really pretty. And then another street scene. Focus, visual emphasis, or dominant feature of any composition. If you're doing an ad for somebody, boy, you better make sure the photograph of their product is in focus. You better make that the first thing you see. Okay, here we go. Okay. What do you see first? What are the first 3 things you see? First, second, third. Anybody? Godzilla?
And the light in the back?
Yep. And maybe the name Godzilla?
The name Godzilla and Godzilla.
Yeah, that's what I see. Yeah, I see the name Godzilla in red. Red is a color that is going to shout at you, look at me. Red is that strong of a color. The Godzilla, and then that lighting. So those are your 1, 2, 3. I'll ask you a lot of times, what are the 3 things? It's like, forget about that. If you can't control the space for 3 things, you've lost it. You've lost the viewer. There are ways that you can do this poster, which I think is very dramatic, where it's much more flat and boring. Believe me, I've done a lot of boring things in the past. What I've learned is to follow my own directions. I'll get out some of these lectures and I'll look at them and go, oh, that's what's wrong. It looks too flat. It looks too flat. I got to manipulate it. Movement, very important. How do you lead the viewer's eye around the picture plane? Well, here are some obvious ways. You work with shapes. Okay? Diagonals, curves are dynamic. Notice there's nothing centered here. There's nothing symmetrical. Everything is moving. This appeals to some people. Other people are like, I don't even want to look at this. But this is the way to make your picture plane. The word is active. Make it active. Make it move. Okay. Anybody know this artist? Oh, guys, come on, you got to know him.
Van Gogh.
What?
Van Gogh.
Vincent van Gogh. Thank you very much. Or I think in Dutch it's Van Gogh. Van Gogh. I was at the museum and I was corrected on the pronunciation. I find Dutch very difficult. I mean, if I can speak Polish but not Dutch, that's saying something. I don't know. But yeah, look at the movement he put into this. Some people at the time thought he was crazy because there was a theory actually it was like about 20, 30 years ago that there was something wrong with his eyesight. No, there was nothing wrong with his eyesight. He wasn't crazy. I think he did have bouts of depression, but he did commit suicide in the end. But he wanted to represent his space this way. He wanted you to see his feelings in the color and the shape he did. I mean, it's amazing. Do you know how many paintings he sold in his lifetime? Guess.
Not much.
Numbers. How many? Numbers.
Just one.
One. His brother bought it. Isn't that sad? So, and he did commit suicide. He was despondent. He shot himself. So, repetition is another. Probably not one of the strongest, but it's worth showing. By repeating an image over and over and over again, whether it's in architecture, art. I don't know what those cows are doing, but that's a lot of white cows to look at. Andy Warhol used it on the right before his pop art. He just took a photograph of Marilyn Monroe. He did silk screens of her over and over again, just using different colors. They're not local colors. Local color means, like, local color for me would be my face, which is kind of a pinky orange. That's Caucasian skin is kind of a pinky orange. This is gray or whatever. That's local. That's the actual color. This is not local. So he's just picking, and it's kind of startling to see Marilyn Monroe with green hair and a green face and red lipstick. Okay? When Andy Warhol first started showing his stuff, I was a little boy at the time, but I remember my parents were horrified. They were absolutely horrified that this is considered art. Okay? Now, what my parents thought was art, good art, were landscape paintings. So that's what they had in their house. They were poor. They were immigrants. So it was prints of well-known, artist kind of stuff. You used to get them at the grocery store. If you bought so much, you could get an artist print that was already framed. That was in the 60s. So that's what we had, and it was kind of nice. There was like classic art, but it was very conservative. Scale. Big, small. There is this particular video. I mean, it's more of a little. Yeah, it's a video that talks about what you can do with taking like that large guy you see up front and making those little critters in the background small and large and all that type of thing. The point is scale. Doing something large, doing something small. This is on the right is I love this poster. It's a Polish poster. It's by Włodzimierz Bragin. And I love the scale of what he's doing here. It's just so crazy, this ant being so big. This is a museum in Minneapolis. It actually is a fountain in front of the museum. There's water coming out here. It's a huge spoon that goes over a pond with this cherry in it. You have to be there to really experience this. It is so incredibly crazy when you walk up to it. this huge spoon. Here is a poster called Black Swan. I think this was a movie not too long ago. And look what they use with the letter S. It's beautiful. I love this. The simplicity of it. Okay? Last one is isolation. And it's what you think. It's when you isolate an object, you draw attention to it. Here's one for the UCLA extension. This is by the very famous designer Paul Rand. The other one is for Westinghouse, also by Paul Rand. Okay? Look at, I don't even know what this is. I can't read it. It's too small. But these clouds, and this is an old-fashioned American schoolhouse with a bell. Must be something about learning. And that's just what I'm picking up from just looking at the objects. This looks like a persimmon. And this is UCLA winter quarter. I don't know if Paul Rand didn't know that in LA it doesn't snow, but he put snow on a persimmon, and it's beautiful again in its simplicity. This is kind of the stuff I strive for in my artwork and also my design. It's not easy. It's not easy. Here we go with a isolating. This is by Herb Lubalin, very famous designer from the 70s and 80s. This is a guy. He's isolated. Put a drop shadow there. Okay, very strong. And here's a typical. This is called ikebana. It's a way of arranging flowers. It's something that the Japanese are experts at. They are creating this feeling of emptiness in all of this negative space, and down here you isolate this soul white vase, and then there's this beautiful arrangement here. Okay, they arrange flowers much differently than a Western sense. We plop everything in a vase and everything is centered. I think they would be horrified if they saw that. So that's that for the lecture on elements, and then this is principles. And what I'd like to do is stop the video. Okay. This is called principles. And save it to the desktop.